The Latin American Caribbean region is the home of vivacious cultures and vibrant natural beauty. Ancient churches and traditions stand at the center of LAC cultures and societies. Yet, only 1 in 6 people in the LAC region have encountered the living Jesus. Our focus is on the other 5. The 540 million people who have never had an authentic introduction to a living Savior. They live in urban cities, dwell in jungle villages, and attend university campuses. 20 million of them live in places that have yet to hear the very name of Jesus. And they are calling us, calling for the next generation to step up, to build and rebuild, to love beyond borders, and carry the hope of Jesus to the nations. Missionaries both past and present have answered the call. Now it's your turn. You stand on the edge of purpose. Behind you sits everything the world expects of you. Ahead lies the work of eternity. Seeds have been sown. Now the harvest is ready. The world transforms at the hand of the bold. Hearts will blossom. Families will reunite. People will be free. Communities will thrive in fellowship. Worship will echo in the city of streets. The lost will be found as dead hearts beat to life. The other 5 cry out for purpose, for healing, for life. The very same life that was given to you, the life of Jesus. The other 5 are waiting. We are LAC. We are heeding the call. The question is,
no, you can't. There you go. All right. Well, welcome everybody to Coffee with the Missionary. And we're excited about tonight. We're really excited because we're talking with
some fellow missionary kids.
Fellow missionary kids. And so let me just turn this a tad. Oh, there we go. We got some technical difficulties, but
our tech girl had some things to do tonight, and unfortunately, we are up to our own devices. So
unfortunately, but anyway, we're working on it.
There we go.
We're excited though to be talking with missionary kids tonight, and if you're a parent tuning in, you have something to excited as you learn about what maybe your MKs are going through, and if you're a fellow MK. You get to be encouraged by, the stories of people just like you who have been through it and come out on the other side. They're still working. They're still alive. So we're excited about tonight. We want to encourage you, as always, comment in your questions, even just your comments. We would love to keep on talking back and forth with you and keep that conversation going.
Yeah.
So
without further ado, let's bring on our first missionary kid we can't really say kids. These are all we're in our adults now, but
that's true.
First up, we have Michelle Ellis. Welcome, Michelle. How you doing?
Good. How are you
We're
guys?
doing good.
So good.
Yeah, we've got some technical difficulties again. We're missing our other 2 MKs. We're trying to find them.
Oh.
But we are grateful you are here. We just had them. We were all just chatting together.
Yeah. But Michelle, why don't you tell us just as an intro, kind of your background, who you are, where you grew up, and then U.S. mission field, where your family ended up.
Yeah. So I'm Michelle Ellis. I am a missionary kid to Argentina. So I was there 18 years. And my family we're based out of the Pacific Northwest, out of Washington State, but currently, we now reside in Springfield, Missouri, and I'm now a missionary associate myself with the Latin America Caribbean region, and pretty excited because I get to serve our LAC families and specifically our MKs. So I'm coming along to be a resource and a support to them through all of the different things that they may face on the field.
Okay.
That's amazing. Yeah, and so you said you spent 18 years in Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
Now, were you born in Argentina?
Yeah, I was.
Okay.
So do you have dual citizenship?
I do.
So does that come in handy? I don't know
does.
why.
Well, really just in Argentina is the only place I use my Argentine passport, but I mean, it's still helpful to beat the lines, you know?
That's funny. Yeah.
Yep.
No,
Do
that's
people
awesome.
ever look at you weird when you show them that passport, or, you know?
I think usually, I mean, not so much like in customs because they're just pretty like stone faced and they're just trying to pass you through. But I think more so when I tell people they're like that I'm Argentine, they're a little bit skeptical. They're like, I don't think so. You sound pretty American to me. And I even have a driver's license that's expired, but I still have it.
That's awesome.
That is cool. I know. I wish I had that experience.
No, why? It just feels cool.
So you mentioned a little bit about, you're now a missionary associate working with LAC. Just a little bit more about what your heart is in that and what you want to see happen in LAC through what you feel God's called you to do.
Yeah, so I remember I remember like distinctly in one of our houses in Argentina, I had gotten a piece of mail from the MK office with AGWM, and I was just always so touched that they remembered us, and that they cared about us and, cared enough to minister and send us birthday cards. And I just remember whatever the piece of mail was, I just remember thinking like, man, MKs are such a like forgotten mission field, because I mean, I was an MK, I had friends who were MKs and I knew what they were going through. And, so I was so grateful for the MK office to be there. And it was just always my dream. A lot of my heart is also with counseling and discipleship. And so a lot of my heart has just been to see, more avenues for that, for our MKs to get connected and to get plugged in and to feel like they're remembered, and to feel like they have community and to hopefully be preventative too in, some of the challenges that they may face on the field. So that's a lot of my heart for LAC is to hopefully be, one point of contact for them, more specialized to, the region, having grown up there and knowing it and this being my family too. So hopefully that can be a helpful resource to support our families, not just the MKs, but I do believe that it helps our missionaries and the family unit be strengthened long term.
Absolutely. So that's awesome.
That's so cool. And parents, if you're watching, be on the lookout and be praying for Michelle as she tries to raise her budget in kind of this crazy environment, right? COVID and all this kind of stuff. So we'll be praying for that. So we're excited to talk today with Michelle. We also have a couple more MKs that we're going to invite on. So the next one we want to invite and say hi to is Katie Hadinger.
Ooh.
So welcome, Katie.
Hello. Thank you so much.
So fun to have you on here with us tonight. So why don't you just kind of similar to what Michelle did, tell us, a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, maybe when you moved to your country, and
Yeah. So, like Noah and Melanie had mentioned, my name is Katie. I am an MK from Mexico.
I know we're biased at all, but
Yeah. I mean, pride and joy, right? My parents are from Ohio, from the Cleveland area, and somewhere in the 1990s, they had this crazy idea to become missionaries to Mexico. And 5 years after that, I came along. Proud to be a 2000s baby. But
wow. Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah. I have pretty much lived my entire life on the field. I moved back 2 years ago in the summer of 2018 to start studying here in Springfield. And other than the normal coming back to the States for itineration, I mean, Mexico is my home. Wow. And I'm proud to say that. So,
wow.
How was that 2 years ago when you moved back?
It was a whirlwind for sure. I graduated high school on a Thursday night, and by Friday morning I was on a plane back to work School of Missions, actually.
Wow.
So that entire summer, that entire transition was utter chaos, and in a sense I loved every moment of it, but there definitely came a lot of challenges and a lot of lessons learned, but nothing that I would change.
Because that must have been weird, because usually when you would come back to the States, you knew in a year I'll be going back home. This time you were like, there's no, to visit, and then your parents, obviously moved to Costa Rica, but then there's no point of return. Did that affect you weirdly, or were you ready to embrace the new thing ahead of you?
It was definitely probably about 6 months in. I could feel like, I like to say I felt my luggage tingling. I was just ready to okay, it's time to pack up and go back. When is this happening?
Yeah.
And, when I realized that's not happening, it was okay, so it's time to start, thinking about some other things and, really praying about what's going to happen in this new stage of life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we're excited to continue to talk with you, Katie, and Michelle. And we have another wonderful missionary kid who is going to join us tonight. So we want to bring him on and say hi to Ethan.
Hey, Ethan. How you doing?
Hey. I'm
Thank
good.
you so much.
Where's my name on the left?
Oh, what's that?
Do the one on the
Oh,
left.
yeah. Sorry, technical difficulties here today. But Ethan, why don't you just introduce yourself, kind of where you grew up in the States, where you were on the field, and give that for us.
All right. So, I'm from Arkansas. We were in Arkansas till I was about 12 and went to Costa Rica for a year to learn Spanish and MK to Ecuador. We were there my parents were there for over 10 years and I was there for about 5. So kind of did best of both worlds, American and Ecuadorian now.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking at 12 years old, did you feel any sadness about leaving the States? Was it only excitement? Did you?
I wasn't excited at all, to be honest, but it was more like a God thing because there was a service we had where God definitely spoke to our family, and I really felt like it was a God thing. So after that point, everything changed, and I just knew it's what we were doing. So after that, it's pretty much we'll see what happens, basically.
Wow. That's awesome.
And you say you were 12, right?
Mm-hmm. I was 12.
Wow. 12. So at that time you were about to enter high school, or you still had another year?
I was about to enter my 8th grade year. So
okay.
I did 8th grade in Costa Rica and then did my high school years besides 1 year of itineration in Ecuador.
Okay. Yeah.
What was that transition like? Did you go from what was your schooling situation like in the States and then?
I grew up in public school, so I was doing a lot of public school stuff and did homeschool for itineration before we went on the field my 7th grade year.
Okay.
And then I went to school in Costa Rica, and then I didn't do homeschool again. I went to an international school in Ecuador.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. In the capital city.
Nice.
Wow. Well, we're excited to have you too, Ethan, and thanks so much for taking the time. And if you're tuning in with us, we're so glad you're here with the special Missionary Kid edition, MK. Feels weird saying Missionary Kid because you guys aren't kids; you're adults. But that's the phrase MK. Yeah. So we want to say that. But thank you for taking the time. And if you're tuning in, whether you're a parent, whether you're a fellow MK, whether you are just love for missions, we're so glad you're here, and we would love your input too. So comment in your questions, anything they're saying you want to know more about, and we'll try to get to those and interact with those. So first thing kind of we want to just kind of get out there is what does it mean to you to be an MK? What does that mean to you? So I don't know who wants to go first.
5 points to anyone who can sing the MK song. Just saying. Kidding. I'm just saying. All right. No. So what does it mean to you guys?
I would say for me, especially the older I've gotten and the more that I can look back on my experiences as an MK, I just really see it as almost like an extension of God's heart to be able to experience people and a culture who God so loves that I may not have experienced otherwise. And so in that way, being able to be a bridge amongst cultures and having experienced that and on various occasions in my adult life, of opportunities where I've been able to befriend someone who maybe didn't speak English and, just needed a little comfort from their home, and so I think to me that's been a big part of it, is just being able to be an extension of God's heart and experience his heart in a different way in a different culture.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely a good put it, Michelle. I have always, considered just the idea of like, oh, I'm an MK, like my parents are missionaries, and my life is not like everyone else's, and that's okay. But much like Michelle, like the older I got, the more I realized like there's such a greater meaning behind it and such a greater purpose. I keep thinking of back in Luke when the angels are saying, Jesus is this great news of great joy for all people. And the older I get, the more I realize like being an MK is being a vessel of that great news for all people. And it's not just our parents who are on the field, ministers, whoever, like it's us too. Like we are bringing that great news. And definitely, yeah, the older that I've gotten, the more I've realized like that's the calling he's placed on my life. And for some, that calling is to your neighbors in the States, to others, going overseas and learning to live in a different culture and making friends with people of another culture and another language.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an amazing perspective. Yeah. And really, I love that thought. I hadn't thought of that before, of the idea of the angels rejoicing at the good news and singing. But I wanted to backtrack because you had mentioned something about the fact that you knew your life was different. So you were born in Mexico, correct? Or yeah. So your entire life really was lived on, but you had an awareness, my life isn't the typical life.
Yeah, it hit me about freshman year of high school when we moved back to Mexico for my last term. I realized like no one else in the States understands what it's like to leave a school in the middle of the school year and move to another country. Granted, like I was comfortable. Mexico is my home, so it wasn't so much of a transition. But it was around that time that I just realized like not, so few of us are given this opportunity. Yeah. And I was totally okay with that. There wasn't anything to be ashamed of. Hurt was a part of it, but there was absolutely no shame involved. And I decided to embrace it.
Wow.
That's interesting that you just said that, because in my head, I'm wondering, did any of you guys ever associate, maybe not shame so much, but not a great connotation with being an MK? Like, did you ever feel embarrassed about it, or not like didn't like it, but was there ever like an adverse reaction?
Not really.
That's good. I'm not looking for it to be yes. Yeah, just curious.
Praise God.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ethan, we wanted to give you a chance to respond as well.
And also to sing. Apparently you
I'll
can
sing if you want me to. I mean, it goes, if you look at me and you wonder what you see, I may be tall. I'm not going to sing the whole thing, because if I mess up, everyone's
well, you are referred to as King Ethan, so
Oh my gosh, I'm looking at the comment. I'm like, somebody's.
You have quite the reputation.
So an MK to you means being King Ethan.
No wonder why there's nothing bad associated with it. All right, Ethan, we're done messing with you. I'm sorry. Go ahead. So what does an MK mean to you?
I don't have I hate the first thing, because my mind is just family. Because I mean, a lot of it just becomes family, and like once you're once you're an MK, like you're just in, and like it never leaves. Like someone wrote, like, when does it end? Like it never ends. And it's family away from family. And I mean, I think that's really important to go through, because when you're on the field, like it doesn't feel like you have, because you leave your family. So the only family you have is the other missionaries and missionary kids there. So, and I mean, most of the time, it's just you're with them more than you are with your family. So you develop strong relationships because I mean, it's hard to be overseas anyway. So you're really just bonded together. And so it's really just about family to me and just makes it easier to walk through.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's amazing each of your perspective. Just the amazing privilege I heard kind of each of you mention about just the amazing privilege it was to that you get to be part of this mission, that you get to be part of that. And if you're an MK that's watching this or tuning in or hearing this, be encouraged with that. That really you have such a special opportunity, such an incredible privilege to be God's hands and feet in a really unique way in your lives. So it looks like more people want to hear Ethan sing.
Oh my gosh, y'all.
Dude, I mean, I'm very close to bribing you with a gift card. I'm not above it.
Sandy Kasem says she's so proud of these kids. She called you kids. Sandy, come on. But she says, all of these are amazing people. They'll always be kids to us old aunties and uncles. But wonderful to see how they develop into fantastic adults who are doing wonderful things for the kingdom of God.
She did redeem herself.
Oh, that's amazing. So
all right. So what are some of your favorite memories of growing up outside of the US? If you can pick just a few.
I mean, I can go first if you want me to.
Yeah, go.
Yeah.
So growing up out of the US, not in the US, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, like some of your some of your time spent.
I just say really just the tranquility of life overseas, and I mean the word in Spanish is tranquilo. Like everything about being in another country is like so much more relaxed than it is here, and I always enjoyed that because it was just like go with the flow. Everyone there was no sense of time, and you did what you had to do whenever it needed to be done. And like here, it's like completely opposite. Like everything's like time. You gotta get everything finished and stuff. So I really like that. Probably the most thing is just about how chill life is outside. And I mean, most of it's just loving on people. I mean, like not just like MKs and missionaries are like family, but like you kind of adopt a family there, and it makes you feel like you're a part of it, even if you're American or whatever. But they really were very open to my family and I, like all over, and the people that we worked with and stuff. So just having just the people in general is my favorite thing about being outside. Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Are you going to click on that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Alberto says un saludo para Michelle.
Hola, saludos a la familia. Yeah, I would go along with what Ethan was saying. Is just a lot of the culture and the customs and the way of life in Argentina, and the people that become like family, like Fernando's family. Like they are longtime family friends, and they were in a different province than us, but still so close, and keep in touch. And so just I don't know. I don't think there's necessarily like a specific memory. I think sometimes I get like flashbacks of my experiences and different things from growing up in Argentina, but I think mostly just the culture and the people is really what made it so impactful for me, at least.
Sure.
And Katie, what about for you?
Yeah, definitely, going along what Michelle and Ethan said, just the hospitality that you find over in Latin American countries. They don't care about time. They care about people and spending time with you and giving you all the coffee and giving you all the, the tacos and the, the dulces, whatever it may be. Like, yeah, they care about opening their home and really just wanting to spend time with people and invest in community. And that is just so beautiful. And it's so easy to fall in love with that.
That's cool. I love that your best memories are of people, in the culture, because that's that's the one thing that if you move overseas, you can't get away from. That's why you're there. So to know that that really is what filled your life with joy and fondness is just incredible. It's a good way to do life.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think are some misconceptions that people have about missionary kids?
I feel like there's probably a lot.
How much time?
Exactly. I was just trying to think back on my experiences with this, and what I maybe perceived growing up when people would find out I was a missionary kid, and I typically would even into adulthood, I kind of try to delay letting people know I'm an MK because I want them to know Michelle the person before Michelle the MK, because I know that there are stereotypes of being an MK. So I think, I don't know, I think sometimes in my experiences, like when people are just like really trying to find out, like, well, where are you from? Which is the most terrifying question, even at 30. So when I finally just have to, in an introduction, have to say, I'm an MK, I grew up in Argentina. I think the misconception I sense a lot of times is that I'm like a passerby in Argentina, that I'm not like a part of it. And so I think sometimes they don't always know what to do with that. I mean, sometimes you get people and they're interested and have questions, and that's cool. But in a lot of my experiences, I think they're just so like kind of caught off guard and aren't sure like how to relate or connect. And they think, I don't know if they think you're a different type of human, or I don't know, but it's just sometimes they're just like, okay.
What do you mean when you say passerby? Like as in, okay, you grew up in Argentina, but the States is really your home?
Yeah. Almost like you were there to like visit for vacation, and that you weren't like living there and speaking the language and integrated into the culture and, living daily life there, is generally the experiences I've had with people, because usually they're getting to know me as a normal person who, didn't ride a lion to school or, any of those bizarre things that people sometimes wonder about.
Yeah, those are good points.
Those are great points.
Yeah.
Ethan, do you have something to add on to that?
Well, I was just thinking like most of the stereotypical things is what people think is that we like grew up on dirt floors and we don't have Wi-Fi and we live in huts. That just gets annoying because it's like we're talking like usually it's like a Facebook message too that they ask if you have Wi-Fi, and then I write back like, yeah, obviously, So a lot of that was kind of weird stereotypical thing. It's probably like a different answer to that question, but that was just the first thing that came to my head.
Yeah.
They think we grew up like really hoofing it.
Sure.
I mean, really, like I grew up in the capital city. It's just like any capital city here, really. I mean, except for everything's in a different language and maybe not as nice. I don't know.
No, but my parents were in Mexico City. I used to say it's like New York City. It's just in Spanish. And instead of pizza, there's tacos. Like that's about it. There's a Starbucks on every corner. There's Home Depot. Like it's pretty similar.
Yeah. And too, like Michelle, when you said like this, some of these conceptions, what I was thinking of is they almost are like expecting that your skin will change when you're in another country. Like, if you live there so much long, then you must change. Then we'll know that you were actually living there. People don't actually think these things through. But yeah. Katie, do you have anything to add? Or?
Just because we love where we're at doesn't mean we're always happy. That was definitely the biggest thing I had to learn that a lot of people didn't understand. They were always interested in wanting to know where we were from and what my life was like, but they didn't really seem to see that there was a lot of FOMO, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a big slang word person.
Good job, Katie. You did great.
Throw a YOLO in there and you've sealed the deal.
My start of the day.
Right.
It's not easy seeing your family get together over the holidays and not being there, and missing out on family birthdays and family reunions and all that. And Just because we love where we live and where we've grown up doesn't mean that it's easy and that it's always happy.
Sure.
And it's always something to, just celebrate, because there's a lot of hurt and a lot of loneliness that I think that I know I dealt with, but I know that a lot of other people, a lot of other MKs dealt with too.
And we do want to talk a little bit more about that. Right before that, Roberto Perez, Bob says, my kids would get, how is it to use a normal bathroom again? They were in Costa Rica for many years.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Or, everyone's loving you guys, of course. Did you ever feel resentment towards your parents because you didn't ask to go?
No.
Okay. Wow. That's amazing. I mean, great.
Yeah. But talk a little bit more, because Katie, you touched on something, I mean, a lot of people may not realize, but MKs go through transitions. It's not just the initial moving. Well, in Ethan's case, it was the initial moving, but then for the rest of you and for most MKs, it's all right, we're in the US, we're in our country, and then we have to go back to the US, and then we have to go back to the country, and we go back. It's the constant transitions. And for, kids growing up, it's your friends, it's your schools. So, how did you kind of cope, or how did you learn to cope with some of those things as you, had
the
to just
FOMO,
live
the
it?
loss, all of that?
As recycled as it may sound, I had to learn to find my identity in Christ, because it was very easy to put on this veil of, I'm an MK, I need to assume this identity in this culture or in that culture in order to fit in. And it was very tiring. It gets very tiring to do that. Mm-hmm. And so I found that the only way to learn to enjoy and to be filled with joy during my time on the mission field was to really discover who Christ had made me to be, and what his plan for my life was, because I knew that regardless of if I was living in Mexico or if I was living in Cleveland, Ohio, that who that identity was not going to change. And as the Lord was gracious enough to reveal who he had created me to be, the more confident I got in, okay, like I can make friends, and I can, not see people for 4 or 5 years at a time, and then go back and pick right up where we left off, because, our relationship is Christ-based. It's not, did you see the latest movie? Did you listen to this new song that came out? It's rooted in the love of Christ.
Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you?
I think, I mean, that really is the best thing any MK can do, really. I mean, that was completely spot on. I think growing up, I just had, I don't know, you kind of get in these like motions, like, what the terms are like in the itineration, so 4 years, 1 year. So I don't think as a kid, I necessarily had the conscious like coping skills. But the thing that I did do is, because usually for me going back to the States was harder, because Argentina was really home, and you're showing up in the States to youth group, and you're this weird kid who like shows up every 4 years and then disappears again, and you're barely there on a Sunday because you're at all these different churches, so you're just kind of this like, no one knows what to make of you, your peers. So for me, the thing that I can think back on that I would find comfort in, not as eloquent as Katie, but I remember in Argentina, like I would like to look at like up at the stars when we lived away from the city and everything. And I don't super remember what it's called in English. In Spanish, it's Tres Marias. So it's like the 3 stars. It might be
Orion's belt.
Orion's
maybe
belt.
I think it's someone's belt. But I
comment in if you know, and let us know. So
yeah. So I remember being in the States, and like when I would see that, it was just a like kind of a weird comfort, and maybe a silly comfort, but just a comfort to me of God is the same here in the States as he is in Argentina. And if he's good in Argentina and if he provides in Argentina, he can do that here too. So that was kind of like a little reminder I would set for myself, was to look for that when there were clear skies, and to just, find peace in that, and, be reminded that God does have good plans and good purposes, regardless of where I am, and that he's unchanging.
That's powerful.
Yeah. And Ethan, anything to add? Or
I mean, one thing I would say is just like I did a lot of, I just trust the Lord, because I mean, we were there for his purpose, and we all surrendered like our lives to the call. So, I mean, really just trusting that he would take care of us. And like me looking back, he definitely just took care of me. Like he took care of each of my family members like individually, but like he took care of me just because I think like the biggest thing is that wherever I was just all in wherever I was. And like, it sounds like it's really hard to do, which I can understand, but like God definitely took care of me, and I was just all in wherever I was, whatever country I was in, because we came back for our generation. And I mean, I went to public school in a school I'd never been in, or a city I'd never lived in before.
wow.
And I was just all in, and it was like the best year of my life. Like it was just great. And like the school, like I mean, it was a public school, so they didn't understand a single thing that what we did or anything. But
Wow.
like they even thought I was an exchange student and stuff like that. I was like, I'm just like you. I was born here.
I have an accent.
Yeah, I know. I was like, where I am. So, I mean, I was just all in, and God just took care of me wherever I was, whether that was in Ecuador or if it was in back home in Arkansas. But I mean, wherever I was, that's where home was. So I just took it all in and was like all in.
I love those words, the all in. Like that's, I mean, just taking pieces of what all of you guys said is just, it's just awesome. You know, when you do, I think the fear is to hold back, right? Let me just wait till I get back to my country, to home, or let me just save this emotion or whatever. But when you fully plant yourself where God has planted you, and Michelle, looking up at the stars are the same in your identity in Christ, like all these three things combined is just, I don't know, it's just incredible. It's like really profound. So
yeah, and Kevin Bernal had a great question, and kind of you guys had touched on it. Michelle, you did, saying that you felt more at home in Argentina, but he's saying, did you guys go through sort of a culture shock? But you did. So as each of you came back to the U.S. from your field and where you were, what types of challenges did you face? Maybe just kind of give people insight into that, because most people probably wouldn't even think of that. They would think, oh, you're home now. You finally get to speak English. You're finally back. But that wasn't the case for you guys. So maybe share just a little insight for people who might not know what that experience, what you guys were experiencing.
I gotcha. When it was like, when we come home after not being in America for so long, it just felt really good to not have to think as much about talking. Because, like, I mean, when we first got over there, like, we were still learning Spanish and stuff, and you just have to think all the time. But when I got back here, I was just like, I can eat the food that I love and the food that I've missed, like Chick-fil-A. And and it was just, like, even going to the airport, as soon as we landed in Miami, we'd go order food in English, and it'd just be like, it's just the best thing. But I mean, really, just it was definitely culture shock when I go back a lot more than when I'd come back home to the U.S. It'd be more like going to Ecuador or whatever, because I mean, you'd have to adapt again and have to like start thinking, because you can't just talk. You had to think. I mean, and over the years, like when I became fluent in Spanish, it wasn't that big of a deal anymore, because it was just like second nature. So just at the beginning, it was kind of hard. Having to figure out, I mean, it was just not as smooth as it is now or whatever, but I mean, a lot of it's just like when we first moved over there, it was just hard because you didn't know what to expect, and you didn't realize how hard it was going to be to like just communicate. And so really it just takes time to learn and understand, and just being good with it. I mean, that was pretty much the biggest culture shock, is just the language primarily. And that was just like right away. So like right after that, like after a year or so, like everything became a lot easier. So you really just got to push through, and then everything will become like you have two homes, and just adapting and just accepting it that you can be both. Like you can be primarily from the U.S., but I mean, right now I just feel like part of me is Ecuador, and it's just, I mean, I spent so much time there, and it's just in my heart. So
Wow.
I just feel like you can be both, and the culture shock is only initial. I don't feel like I miss it. Like I miss it so much now. So it's not like a shock. It's like I want to go back home. But when I'm there, I'm like, I want to go back home. So it's always been back and forth. So
yeah, there's an element of home in each place.
Yeah, for sure.
I think on the flip side of the culture shock back in the States is, like, for me, you know, you're gone for 4 years, you know, so at least back in my day, you know, movies didn't come out like as frequently. You'd have to wait a while, you know, and sometimes they'd be, you know, they wouldn't have it, you know, in English, which, I mean, we can understand Spanish, but you lose some of the, you know, when you're used to an actor's voice or the jokes or whatever, you know, so you're coming back after 4 years and everyone's talking about all of these pop culture references, and you're, you know, in that age group that's supposed to know these things, and you're with friends and they're, you know, talking about all these things that have been happening, and you're just like, oh, okay, you know, and you're trying to figure out how do I fit into this conversation, and you know, you're wearing weird hand-me-down clothes, and, you know, from 10 years ago, and everyone's wearing something completely, like, all the cool stuff, and so it's just you know, just all of those things that just make you feel like the arrows are pointing at you, you know, in those awkward years of life when you don't want a lot of attention on you, and you just feel like everyone just sees that you don't fit in, is some of what I felt on the flip side of what Ethan felt.
Yeah.
Katie, anything to add?
I mean, these two pretty much nailed it on the head. Yeah, just the being stuck in two places, the having two places to call home, and just, you know, trying to juggle those two. Biggest culture shock for me was always coming back to the States and having to do, in a sense, a giant social study. Just do your homework and figure out, you know, what are the kids up to these days? What are they watching? What are they listening to? And it's just
You got to start taking tips from, like, older people. What are the kids up to these days, guys? What are we doing here?
But yeah, just, I think these two did a great job at just speaking truth to that question.
Awesome.
When you guys think of those times, and then you think of things that helped you get through, like maybe a friend who did listen, or someone who was willing to listen, you know, what are those couple things that maybe people, if they're in that situation, or if, you know, if they're in a situation where at their church in the U.S. and a missionary family's coming back, what are those things that stood out to you as they invited you and made you feel more comfortable and made you feel a part? You know, things that people did. Does that make sense, that question?
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of those things?
Definitely, there's a family in Ohio who I've gotten to know very, very well. They stand out because they were intentional about getting to know me for who I was, and not just the fact that I'm some kid who has Ohio parents, who was born in Mexico and works with the Assemblies of God. Like, they were very, very, very intentional about getting to know me, and, you know, wanting to spend time with me and with my parents, and, you know, with my brothers for that matter. And that really meant a lot. That was really stood out.
Can you explain how they did that?
You know, every Sunday after church, they would invite me over to their house. They had like 7 kids, all between the ages of like 15 and like 2.
Wow.
And so they would invite me over every Sunday. They would let me go to youth group with them. They would invite me over to spend the night. They would want to go out and with me. They would just ask me questions and just show that they really cared by wanting to spend time with me.
That's cool.
Which is not something that I had really experienced much before on the American side of the border.
Yeah. Don't forget that question up there.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, we do want to. Do any of you guys have something to add to that? Okay. Dorothy Ellis asked this, and then Lisa Sears asked the same thing. But do any of you guys want to go back to the mission field as a missionary?
Well, Michelle.
Well, I'll just say hi, Dorothy. Good to have you on here. I mean, I'm a missionary associate now with the LAC region, so I kind of am doing that. So I definitely think that I think another question was related to about growing up as an MK influencing, and I think it did for me certainly influence growing up as an MK, the desire to be involved in missions and pursue being a missionary myself.
Sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Katie,
Go ahead.
I definitely see myself being involved in missions in some way, whether that's, I'm not sure that's full-time, fully appointed missionary, but with the degree I'm pursuing, I definitely see myself doing international healthcare, missions healthcare, endless options. So,
because you're a nursing degree, right, Katie?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say but like I want it to be on God's timing, and like really, like it comes down to like whatever God wants me to do, I'm gonna do it. And I know that's like totally, that's what everybody says. But since I've grown up on the field, like I feel like that would be more to my advantage to do it because I've done it before. So I think my answer might be different. Like it'd be harder because I haven't done it before, but like since I've done it. I mean, I'd be more than willing, just whatever God wants me to do, period. But I mean, if it was that, I wouldn't like back down from it because I mean, I grew up doing it, so it's definitely open to anything really. So
that's awesome. Dorothy says we pray for you continually. Alberto says, "Vamos viejo." He's talking to your dad or your uncles, Michelle, not you.
I think so.
That's awesome. So, guys, since moving back to the States for college, obviously, Michelle, you're past that stage. Ethan said that you just graduated a year ago, right? College, and then Katie, you're in college now. Looking back at your experiences, we already did kind of touch this, but did anything stand out from your transition for specifically college? Or just everything that we've talked about already kind of cover that?
I'd say college was definitely the hardest transition, which is pretty common with MKs. That first year tends to be a pretty hard transition for them, sometimes unexpectedly so. So my second semester especially is when it really just hit me, being away from home and not knowing when I'd get to go back and never having been away from home for longer than a year. And so that was just a really like bizarre kind of thought to me. But thankfully, I mean, the Lord is faithful and he does bring friends who, like Katie was saying, really do want to get to know you for who you are and, take an interest too in your MK life, but they don't make that, the bulk of who you are. So all of those things are very healing.
Sure.
Yeah.
About you guys?
I will admit, freshman year, that transition was probably one of the hardest years of my life. It was such a struggle, very painful, but the Lord's grace was just upon me through that entire year, because right as I had moved up for college, my parents were also due to come back for furlough. So it was nice to, for them only to be a 12-hour drive away, and I could go easily see them, hop on 2 planes, and fly back to Ohio. But yeah, it was definitely not easy whatsoever.
Why?
But it was going from a place that I had called home for so long, kind of like we had touched on earlier, and then realizing that I was probably never going back.
Wow.
That the people that I had spent 80% of my childhood, I would probably never see again. And I think the fact that me coming back to the state after I graduate and not having that time to grieve properly and like kind of, give my farewell to those relationships, in hindsight, maybe wasn't the best decision. But it was just, trying to figure out, okay, like, how do I continue on with life in a place that in my heart has never really been home? It's just kind of been a temporary detour.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm beyond thankful for my parents because they have helped me so much during that year.
Ethan, anything to add?
I mean, kind of feel odd because like most of my experiences was kind of different.
That's okay.
It was like complete opposite. Like I knew it was over, and I knew I'd be able to go back because my parents were still there. And so really, I went to Evangel, and I go back during the summer. So, and I mean, a lot of things changed too because like my parents moved cities and stuff, so it was all new every time. So, but one big thing was like me going to Evangel. Like I had the MK office, and there's a bunch of MKs. I roomed with an MK for 4 years. Zach Man, if you know him, if he's watching, I'm giving him a shout out. It was just good to have people, MKs that knew what you were going through, just in case you needed them. Because I mean, we were all going through the same thing. So, especially rooming with one, we could come back and vent healthfully. Whatever you say. It's not like it was like all the time. I was just saying.
No, yeah. Need a safe place.
It was like, we were there and we adapted and we were all there for everything that was going on. But like at the same time, we'd have those days where like, oh, I don't want to be here anymore. I just want to go back to another country and be free of all this. But I mean, pretty much we just accept it and did what we needed to. And it helped that I could stay in contact with my parents every day. They had good internet. So
that's good. Nice. They had internet there?
Oh yeah, they had internet. It was crazy.
You had a house?
What?
Can you believe that?
Just a real quick question. Did you guys ever, in this, I hope it's not too personal, disclaimer, I did ask them beforehand if I could ask anything. Did you guys ever do any counseling or anything? Like, were there resources available if you wanted it? Like, because a lot of the things you're talking about are pretty heavy, with transition stuff.
I would say, yeah, it was different form. Like I talked to some people in the MK office, like I go talk to them or whatever, but I never had like a counseling session for dealing with transition or whatever. Because I mean, it's different for every person, but especially that kind of transition, it was kind of hard to go to a normal counselor and talk to them because they wouldn't understand. So just you just, I guess, utilize the MK office as much as you can because I mean they're there and they offer it, and especially being in Springfield, I could just drive over and be like, hey, can I talk to you?
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on? Or I mean, I'd stay in contact with most of them. So just using your resources, especially being in Springfield, is a lot easier. But I mean, the MK office is definitely always there, not just like in-person stuff, but I mean, they really put work into helping us, and I would definitely go hang out with them or talk to them, or if I needed them, I'd always just give them a call too as well. So it's more of a different kind of, I guess, counseling, if you'd say that.
Yeah,
sure. That's what I did.
Yeah, I didn't. I look back and I went to SAGU and they have free counseling for students, and I think it would have been great if I had utilized that regularly. I remember that second semester when I felt like I was like busting at the seams, just trying to hold myself together. And I didn't know who to talk to because, as an MK, you kind of fit this weird like mold, and, you don't really know who's really going to understand all the weird little things that come along with being an MK. And I remember one of my friends, she recommended, talking to one of our professors that worked there. And I was like, well, I might as well give it a try because like, I know I need help. And so it was really cool. And it ended up feeling like very much like a God thing because her husband actually grew up as an MK, and I didn't know that going in.
Okay.
She did understand quite a bit, which was really helpful. And I took advantage when I was there at SAGU. Bethany Skipper, a wonderful MK to Mexico and Argentina. But she was a dorm pastor at SAGU, and so sometimes I would go knock on her door, and I'd be like crying, and she'd drive me to her parents' house and some alfajores from their pantry.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, I wish I had utilized that service more at SAGU because it was free, and I would recommend for MKs, especially college age in that first year. But certainly, I mean, MK office is an incredible resource. I worked for the MK office after college, and they love MKs. So such a valuable resource to reach out to them. And for our LAC MKs, I'm a resource to you too. So there's definitely options available to our MKs.
Yeah, and I did want to encourage everyone, even parents who are watching or MKs, that Michelle, that's a huge that's what you're doing, and so you understand the MK life, and so always feel free to let's go ahead and type out your email, Michelle, if we can.
Yeah.
We can put that in the chat here. Go ahead and tell me that. I'll type it in.
You want me? I can type it on.
Go ahead and do that. But yeah, that's exactly what Michelle is up to, specifically for LAC, which is exciting because each region presents its own challenges. So that's what Michelle's here for full time. And so before we kind of get our last question, Katie, I did want to give you a chance to respond to that as well.
Yeah, MK office can't emphasize that enough. They are such a blessing. Such great people with great character who want to live on all UMKs and just want to listen to you guys. I simply put.
That's awesome.
So yeah, Michelle put her email up here.
Thanks, Michelle.
Michelle.ellis@ma.agmd.org. You can save that and send that. We have one last question.
I want to do both. We're running out of time, but there's so many.
We are, but I do want to. Did want to do something that is going to embarrass Katie.
Oh, that's true.
We do have to do that. So. Just a second here.
Just hold your horses.
Hopefully I can get this on the screen.
Take us off the screen.
Well, okay. All right. Well, we need to talk though.
True.
All right, let me see. Let's see.
Michelle, we'll bring you right back.
Yeah, let's see what I can do here. So
this is courtesy of Katie Hadinger's mom. We did give Katie the warning. We're not this terrible, but it's adorable.
So she said, Katie, can you tell us the story of these pictures?
Alrighty. World Cup, U.S. between Mexico, and MK's worst nightmare.
I for both.
Every time the other team would score I almost said a touchdown. That's embarrassing. I would always turn my face and be like, now I'm rooting for this team because they just scored. And just kidding, this team.
That's awesome.
Yeah. MK's worst nightmare, best memories. Thanks, Mom.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Sorry about that. We just had to do that.
All right. Let's do this. I'm going to make up a rule real quick. In 1 minute or less, I want to hit both of these questions. So we're going to make it a super quick combo. What advice would each of you, one sentence, give to a current MK that's living in another country right now?
I would say, as hard and difficult as it can be, for sure. Three of us on here, we've lived it, but tried to embrace it because it's such a vapor time in your life that you'll look back on and wish that you hadn't taking advantage of it because it's a beautiful time, and reach out. Like we were just saying, reach out for support.
Yeah. All right. And this is the last question for you, Michelle, too. We're each going to hit both of these questions. What advice would you give parents for their MK kids?
I would say just generally, seek to understand what they're going through, be patient with how they're experiencing things, reach out as well. There's also resources and support available to you. But the biggest thing I would say is to pray for your kids, have people praying for them, because if you're called to go and take the gospel to dark places, the enemy wants to come against that. Yeah. And so one area where you're vulnerable is your kids, and he knows that. And so it's so pivotal. And I believe your MKs are world changers. And so your prayers can continue on to strengthen them to do incredible things that God has purposed for them.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great.
Very awesome. Yeah. Who wants to go next?
I'll go.
All right, Ethan, you're up.
Okay.
All right. So advice for an MK and then advice for the parents.
Okay. For kids, I would just say that just be all in. Like, I know I've already said that, but just be all in and be involved. If that's like your school or whatever you go to school, be involved, whether it's like sports, drama, just whatever that you like to do. Mine was sports, and I got into sports there. So it kind of kept my mind busy. Also, like, it helped me to make friends and just feel like I had a purpose there on top of the ministry life. But I played sports, I played basketball, so I was able to just focus on that too. So I was super involved there. And then I was just super willing to do what my parents said. And it may have been hard at first, but in the end, like, you can only, like my dad always says, you can always do something for a week. So we'd have like construction teams and stuff that would come, and he would always tell the teams that you can do anything for a week. So I would just do it too. So you can always do something. It's not going to last forever. Just do it to the best of your ability and just be involved and take it all in.
Awesome. And then what about, sorry.
Yeah. And for parents,
just besides like praying for your kids, that should be the main thing you should be doing, and just getting your kids out of their comfort zone. I know it sounds brutal, but ultimately it's really changing, because their minds, like, you can just start, like, my parents got me out of my comfort zone. I mean, first by just going to another country, but we did a lot of ministry stuff that was new, and my parents, they just got me out of the house to do stuff. So we weren't always stuck in the house together. We got out and we were with the people, and we went to things, and we went to like soccer games, and we were friends with people that we just adapted to the culture and got in the culture instead of staying in our house and being just isolated. We kind of just adapted and just accepted it and tried to be a part of it. And that really helped getting out and being involved.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, thank you so much. And Katie, you are our final word on this.
For you guys, for you MKs, I just encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity. It's not every day that you get to grow up overseas, and just realize that your attitude and has a lot to do with it, and that the enemy will do everything he can to make this opportunity as sucky and as crappy as he can be. So take advantage of it, and don't be afraid to try new things, to break your comfort zone. Just conquer it. And for the parents, take time to listen to your kids. You guys are struggling, as a lot of you guys are going through too, but your kids are struggling with a lot too. So listen to your kids and love on them, and don't be afraid to do family things together that breaks all of your comfort zones. And just kind of grow closer together through that. And yeah.
Awesome. Man. Well, this may have been one of my favorite episodes. Everyone's saying it, but really, thank you guys.
Yeah, so many incredible comments. I encourage each of you guys to go back and look through, because so much encouragement for each one of you. Thank you guys just for an incredible perspective, real and honest, as well as hopeful. And so we're thankful to each of you, and to each of you for watching and commenting in. Thank you so much. And next month we'll be talking about prayer and really focusing on that. It's a huge part of LAC. And so we're excited to do that. But until then, God bless each one of you. And we'll talk to everyone later.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Guys.